How's it going, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of Eyes On, Brains Off. This is Chris. We have a great episode for you today. We're talking friends from college and a bunch of other fun stuff. This is kind of a cool episode for us because it is our first episode that we are recording and publishing in the same week. So thank you so much to everyone who's been listening as we put out 2 episodes a week. This will be the last week we do that. And moving forward, we'll be putting out 1 episode each week, still on Fridays, that we record in that same week. So everything we talk about is going to be a lot more timely and relevant and hopefully more engaging and enjoyable for everyone to listen to. So again, just want to thank you for listening. Special shout out to Katie for giving us a bunch of great ideas for future episodes. If you want to give us ideas for future episodes, email us at eyesonbrainsoffpod@gmail.com. We're checking that regularly. It's a great way to get a hold of us. Also, if you have any pop culture questions or comments or other bits of feedback about what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show, send it all there. We're happy to hear it, and it really helps us figure out what we can do better on the show. In a world with so much content, 2 men embark each week to watch as much as they can and share their recommendations with you. This is Eyes On, Brains Off. Dun dun dun! So that could be like one way we open the show, or like whatever. Oh, we already started. So
we did. We have some. Yes, indeed, we have started. I am not editing that. Oh, you're editing this week's episode. So, I advise you not to edit that out.
Right. I mean, this is it. This is the old EOBO, Eyes On, Brains Off, where we talk each week about everything we watched, movies, TV, online video clips, and the like, and share our thoughts with you, the listeners. I'm, of course, one of your hosts, Chris.
And I'm the other host, Brian. And, I was a little apprehensive at first calling it the old EOBO because it's got, BO at the end of it. But it's really growing on me. I really like I really like breaking it down.
It just rolls off the tongue real nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's smooth. It's like a fine scotch. But not as old.
Or a nice milkshake.
Yeah? What kind of milkshake would this be, Chris?
A nice chocolate milkshake, probably.
Okay, yeah, I can get behind that.
Why not?
Yeah, it's plenty of flavor. You don't need anything else.
Yeah. Nothing fancy. So
No. It's just EOBO.
Just EOBO. It's just a couple of vowels and a consonant. Just real easy does it. No flair here.
How long do you think we can start, or how long do you think we can keep talking about our title for the podcast?
I think I got a tight 5 ready if you wanna go through that.
Oh, do you? Okay, yeah, let's do that.
No, I don't have a tight 5.
No, you don't? Oh man.
No. Do you? Is your tight 5 ready?
I also don't have a tight 5 ready. No, I'm not prepared this week in regards to my tight 5. Joking about our title for the podcast.
Yeah, well, win some, lose some. Yeah. How's your week been going otherwise, Brian, since last time we chatted?
I mean, it's been a good week. It's been long, but it's been good. Since we last talked, plenty of full days, again, with work. But we had a float trip in there, which was a lot of fun. We floated the Yellowstone. And
so many float trips for you this summer.
I know. We went camping, too. And we were worried, or at least I was worried, because a lot of the people I worked with brought hammocks to sleep in for the night instead of sleeping in tents. And the campsite we were at didn't have the most trees. Luckily, kind of near us and across from us, there was a space, where a lot of our folks did set up, which was great. And then I had the added pleasure of hooking up one side of my hammock to a tree and then the other side of the hammock to my Jeep, which worked very well.
I saw the photos.
It was nice. It worked out. So it was just all around a good float trip. And then a really relaxing weekend, which is just what I needed, especially since we've got RAs coming on campus starting tomorrow night. And then I'm just going. It's nothing but RA training, podcasting, and opening and getting ready for students to be back.
Oh boy. Full schedule for Brian.
Mm-hmm. What about you, man? How's your week been?
It's been all right. Did a little hiking over the weekend with a buddy of mine, and there's a popular spot up in the Madison area, about an hour north of here, called Devil's Lake, and the place was jam-packed when we went on Saturday, but we decided to do a little something different. They have a pretty well-worn trail, beautiful trails around the lake itself. They have very high bluffs that you can take some very scenic pictures at, and just a really nice, long, and at times very challenging hike. But we'd done that a couple times, so we went out more on the west side, and they have more of like a prairie and basin area, and just tried to mix it up a little bit and hike through there a bit, and that was nice. Just a nice, beautiful day to be outside and just get out and do a little exercise. So
very nice.
That was good. And then I started my Mediterranean diet. I know you've talked a little bit about your diets that you're on. I started the Mediterranean diet this week. So
what does that entail?
So the Mediterranean diet is focused on, it's a little easier to talk about what it doesn't focus on, which is no red meat. Not no red meat, but like a very reduced intake of red meat.
Okay.
A lot of chicken and fish, and like fresh fruits and vegetables, and pasta. So like think very Italian, but minus heavy sauces. And then like not a lot of dairy, so not a lot of cheese or milk, but like Greek yogurt is a big part of it. So been giving it a shot. It's a little more, I got this cookbook for beginners, and even these beginner cookbooks are still a lot of work. So
yeah, absolutely.
Tried to do a little meal prep to a little bit of success, but just a lot of prep work involved in cutting a lot of things up and getting it all cooked. So we'll see how long I last on it, but just trying to treat my body right.
We are really on opposite diets.
Yeah.
Like you're because I am all about, my diet's all about the red meat. It's all about the cheese. It's all about the vegetables. But it's no fruit and no carbs, or it's low carb. It's low carb.
Okay.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to hear back with more.
We'll have to compare contrast notes. We'll make it a little subset of the podcast. The old mouse open, stomachs full, something along those lines. We'll workshop that a little bit. We'll fix it in post. I don't know.
We'll get on it.
Yeah.
It will be the foodie podcast that we do, because we're such foodies.
Exactly. Big foodies.
That's something I've heard a lot. What does it mean to be a foodie? Do you know? Do you have like a good definition?
I feel like I have friends who are foodies. I feel like it's just like...
And I don't talk to them as much. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's just like... I feel like it's just people who, like, when a new restaurant opens, they're all over it. I don't think it's necessarily about being a, like, good cook, necessarily, but it's about, like, being an adventurous food eater, I guess. Like, just, like... And being like hip and trendy with like what the hot food trends are.
Okay, interesting. I might have to look up a YouTube video on what it means.
Oh, that would be fun to report back on next week.
Yeah.
If you find a good one.
What's it mean to be a foodie?
It sounds like you're writing. You don't have Siri make a note on that one for you?
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
It is not.
Next time.
next time.
Well,
All
hey
right.
Siri, remind me to look up YouTube videos regarding foodies later.
Okay, I'll remind you.
Sweet. Got it.
Everyone's favorite part of the podcast.
Yeah, everyone. When I go back and I edit, or I go through and listen to the podcast again, I wear headphones when we record, but it goes through my speakers. And when it goes through my speakers, my phone fires up when I say, "Hey Siri" in the podcast. So
That's fun.
I'm playing myself. It's great.
There you go.
Yep. Well, hey, speaking of which, let's get things kicked off. I want to know if you came across any movies this last week that you'd like to talk about.
I did. A few things I've been working on are been working my way through the Marvel movies a bit. Just realized I hadn't seen or watched, I guess I've seen them all, but I haven't watched some of the earlier ones in a while, so just kind of trying to go through them in the order they were released. So watched Iron Man 1 and The Incredible Hulk, and I'm about halfway through Iron Man 2 right now. Just watching them in little bits and pieces as I go along here. But those have been fun. Incredible Hulk really isn't that good of a movie. It is the Betsy Brandt character, especially played by Liv Tyler, is very poorly put together.
Well, it's very Liv Tyler-y.
Yeah, to a certain extent. It's very damsel in distress.
It's a good way of putting it too.
I feel like the movie doesn't change a whole lot if you take her out of it, you know?
I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I feel like if you take her out of it, then you lose a lot of the drive for. This is the Ed Norton Hulk movie, right?
Correct.
You see, I think this one's a fine movie. I mean, it's certainly not my favorite. It's not Avengers by any means, but it's certainly better than the one with Eric Bana.
Oh, for sure. I think it's just like, of the MCU movies, it is probably the most forgettable. Like, I, honest to God, keep forgetting about the fact that was made.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really disappointed in William Hurt because I feel like he lost a lot of his character from that movie to the Captain America Civil War movie. I thought they were two very different characters, which was disappointing because I really liked him in the first Hulk movie. I thought he did a really good job with that. And generally, I'm a fan of William Hurt. I think he's a good actor, and he's got a lot of stuff that I like. But, I don't know. Something about him in Civil War just wasn't doing it for me.
Oh, and see, I didn't mind him in Civil War. Time passes and people change, Brian. That just...
You're not wrong.
Just happens.
Quick question for you. I want to go back.
Sure.
I just want to, Iron Man 2. You recently watched it. Do you feel like it's as bad? I feel like Iron Man 2 gets the worst rap out of the Iron Man series, and I don't necessarily understand why. Do you?
I'm only halfway through it, and I'm trying to kind of piece that together. And I think the problem with it is they tried to do just a little too much in that movie. And so there are certain things that I think if they would have focused on one piece, it would have been a little more impactful than, they tried to jam a lot into that movie. And I'm not even talking necessarily about the Avengers stuff that they try and start to set up in this film, but it's just a lot going on. And if they would have maybe trimmed one or two plot ideas and just focused, because there is some stuff in there that makes it for a compelling movie that I think if they had allowed that to breathe or just focused on a little more, they would have heightened the drama in it and just pulled it together a little bit better. But I think that movie, I agree with you. I think it's a perfectly enjoyable movie. I think it gets kind of put towards the bottom a lot. Mickey Rourke is kind of just in his own movie to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Playing a character that doesn't exactly jibe with the rest of the film, so to speak. But I think there's still a lot of fun to be had in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that they were jamming plot points into it. I mean, certainly no Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire, because that was just a heaping pile that was too overloaded. It had too much going. It was just trying to do too much. Whereas this, I mean, I get what you're saying, and everything kind of seems to be watered down a bit because of all the different plot points. But like you said, it's a perfectly fine movie.
Yeah, I think we can talk about this more another time. But because the real film I wanted to talk about this week, the new movie that I saw was Dunkirk.
Oh, you finally got around to Dunkirk.
Yes, finally got around to Dunkirk.
How does it end? Don't spoil it.
Well, don't ask me how it ends then, Brian.
You're right. I should have said don't spoil it first, but we'll edit it. We'll edit it out.
Yes. So Dunkirk was very good. I don't know that it's quite as good as everyone is saying it is. Like, it is a very well put together movie. Cool story told in an interesting way. So I think it's a very good movie. Is it a great movie? I'm not sure I'd necessarily put it up there. Like, I've seen a lot of people saying, like, oh, like, throw this one, like, early Oscar contender. And I'm just like, really? Are we really thinking, like, cinematography? Like, maybe some of the more technical categories, for sure. Because it's shot very, very well. But, the thing about this movie that's interesting, that I'm glad I knew going in, and I don't think a lot of people realize, is it tells three very distinct stories.
Okay.
So you have a story that takes place on the beach at Dunkirk for the soldiers that are trying to get off the beach. You have a story that takes place with a civilian who, part of the Dunkirk evacuation was that they enlisted civilian boats to help get the soldiers off the beaches. And so you follow one of these boats that's going to Dunkirk. And then the last story is with a RAF pilot above Dunkirk who was kind of helping fight off the planes that were kind of dive bombing the soldiers that were trapped on the beach.
And that's Tom Hardy, right?
And Tom Hardy plays one of the pilots.
Okay.
Now, the interesting thing about these three stories, now that's not so odd, especially for a war movie in and of itself. The odd part is that the beach story takes place over the course of a week, the boat story takes place over the course of a day, and the airplane story takes place over the course of an hour.
Ooh.
But all three stories converge towards the end. So it's just a really unique way of telling a story, and it's fun to kind of see how everything fits together, and you see some pieces earlier than you see others, and you just kind of see how it all fits together.
Yeah, and I know Christopher Nolan has gotten some flack for his last couple films, specifically Dark Knight Rises, and I know not everybody was a fan of Interstellar. But and I think what those two movies came down to was writing, and I think where people see the errors was in the writing, whereas the way he directed, the way he tells the story and cuts the movie, how he films it, it's all very good. He does a really great job of putting that together.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful film. It's interesting that you bring up the writing, because I read an article this week that said initially he wanted to shoot the movie without a screenplay.
What?
Right? So he knew all the scenes he wanted to shoot, and he just wanted to, like, I don't necessarily mean like he wanted to shoot it as a silent film, but he just, like, had I think they phrased it like choreography down of, like, what he wanted to shoot and how he wanted to show everything, and just, like, didn't really see the need to add dialogue. And if you watch the movie, like, it is a very, like, dialogue is pretty minimal in the film, so you can kind of see where that's coming from. But the thing that I will say, one of the things I didn't like about the movie, and part of the reason I think that it kind of fails to go from that good to great, is that the whole point of this movie is that the army is trapped. They are surrounded and they are pushed back. And the movie starts pretty much with someone arriving on the beach. And because of that, you never really get that sense of how just, I don't want to say it, like, not oppressed, but just how desperate the situation was.
Okay.
Like, that seems to be the whole point of the movie, and I just don't think it comes across as strongly as they want it to.
Do you know how they got there? Like how they got on the beach? Do they show you say the first shot is somebody going onto the beach. So does that mean that that's where it like opens? Like it's the first guy to realize that they're all trapped in Dunkirk, or do you see and have an understanding of the retreat to the beach and the town?
No, so yeah, it's kind of split between those two. So the opening sequence is you're in a town, and then it is kind of a mad dash through the town to get to the beach. But it's only like it's a very small group of people, and by the end, like these people are getting picked off, and so you only have one person left, and that's one of the main characters you follow throughout the course of the film. And when he arrives on the beach, pretty much everyone is already there waiting to get off.
Is that Cillian Murphy?
No, he shows up much later in the film.
Got it. Okay.
This is one of the younger... I don't know who this actor was.
Okay.
Speaking of younger actors, though, I will say that they had, for all our, tween listeners out there, Harry Styles from One Direction. He's in the movie.
We're going to pull a lot of listeners for this one, Chris.
Make sure we put it in the description. Get that SEO bump.
Yep, absolutely. Got to get that hashtag out there.
Exactly. He was in it, and I thought he was very good. I was very impressed. He seemed to hold his own really well, along with... I mean, everyone acted very... The acting was superb in that film, but he did a nice job holding his own for someone who doesn't have a lot of acting experience.
Yeah, and there was a Jonas brother that's in a show called Kingdom, and I forget which... It's on one of those premium cable channels that you don't necessarily hear about, but this show's been getting some buzz, and he plays an Ultimate Fighter in that, and he... From the episodes that I saw about a year and a half ago, was doing well. These guys, they have other talents.
Yeah, I've heard good things about him. I've heard good things about that show in general, yeah.
Yeah.
So what about you, Brian? Any movies this week?
I pretty much only watched 2 movies this last week. It was late one night, and I only say I pretty much watched 2. I did watch some clips from the Captain America Civil War, and I watched that on Netflix. I basically just wanted to see some of the highlights for some reason. I guess I was just kind of... What night was this? It's like Wednesday night. Maybe it was Sunday night. I don't know. But, I was just kind of in the mood to see a bit of the movie, but not the entire movie. So, I just kind of put on a few parts. But nothing really to go into too much.
Okay.
The other 2 I specifically got as part of like my last free weekend cleanse movement of doing nothing. Okay, so Friday night, April ordered me Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh.
Because she is lovely and great. And I rented John Wick 2.
Nice.
So I stayed in and I played video games and I watched John Wick 2, which is just a very fun movie. I've got some issues with the writing sometimes, because like at the very end, I don't like the line where he says to Ian McShane, "You tell everyone. No, tell all of them. I'll kill all of them." And it's just kind of a stupid... Yeah, it's very stupid and repetitive. And I'm just not a fan of it at all. But the choreography, the fighting, the gunplay in that, it's just... It's kind of sickening how violent it is, but at the same time, I'm an American, I guess, and I really enjoyed it. It's just a great way to start off a weekend of doing nothing.
Oh yeah, that's a prime movie for that. And the thing I like about those movies, and I will say I like John Wick 1 better than 2, but I still enjoyed 2 a fair bit. But what's cool about especially the first one, and what they do a nice job in the second one is that, they advertise that movie as kind of this straight up action film, and then what you don't realize is that they build this whole mythology around this world of assassins, and they continue to flesh that out in the second one, and just the bits that they add to it in the second one are just so much fun. And it's those little bits that I think really elevate those movies. Because like you said, the gunfighting, all the action is top notch, but I think it would feel a little hollow without these fun little eccentricities like the underground world of assassins that they incorporate into it.
Yeah, and I think they really tipped that off well in the first one when the first wave of Russians come after him at his house, and he kills all of them. And then the cop shows up, and he's like, "You working again, John?" It's like, "Oh, I'm just working some stuff out." And I was like, "Okay,
yeah,
I'll see you later." Because I was very interested when that first happened. I was like, "Oh man, how is he going to handle the cops?" Oh, okay. Well, he's just going to open it up. Oh, the cop's in on it. Okay. Yeah, this world's kind of interesting. I saw a sneak peek or a special clip or something, like a behind the scenes thing on YouTube once though. And it was one of the actors from John Wick talking about and they just do a really good job of making you think maybe there really is an underground world of assassins. And I thought to myself that no. The movie doesn't do that great a job. Don't get me wrong, it's entertaining, and I dig the background and the world building that they do. But don't try to suspend my belief to think that this is actually happening in real world New York, because it absolutely is not.
Right.
So John Wick 2, a lot of fun. Again, I was just looking to shut my brain off, and I did it. And then I continued to shut my brain off. I woke up the next morning. I personally, I remember growing up and thinking, God, why don't I sleep in on the weekends? It's terrible when I don't get to sleep past 10 o'clock when I was growing up. Now I love waking up at 8 or 9. If I got to bed early enough the night before, making a cup of coffee, maybe playing some video games, maybe, reading a book, but just really enjoying that time. And Saturday, I did just that. I woke up, I think around 8:30 or 9, so not the earliest, but not the latest. Made a pot of coffee, got on the couch with my dog, and I watched Power Rangers, the movie, like I was 9 years old, and it was fantastic.
Man, I still have not seen that movie.
Oh, buddy.
I gotta get on it. I keep meaning to rent it.
Yeah, you know what I did? And this is totally a plug for us to get sponsored in some way by, what is it, Redbox? Redbox. If you sign up and you download their app for your phone and you get the emails, you'll get some pretty good deals to use. I got $1.50 off a rental, which I put towards John Wick 2 and Power Rangers. So for $2.75 or something like that, I was able to watch both those movies on Blu-ray.
That's pretty good.
And I bought it. I used my phone. I bought it all on my phone. I hit reserve. I picked up the wings. I went over. I got the movies. Came home. Showered real quick. Oh, it was great.
That's nice. Speaking of that, I feel like Redbox could probably use some podcast advertising. I feel like that's...
They absolutely could.
I don't hear them on podcasts ever, and they would be a good fit for it, I think.
Hey, Siri, remind me to reach out to Redbox about possible promotion and sponsorship.
Okay, I'll remind you.
Thank you. I'm on it, bud.
Okay, great. Bring in that revenue.
That's the movies I watched this week. Sorry, not to segue too much, but Power Rangers, same line as John Wick. I got both of them just because I wanted to shut my brain off, and I knew Power Rangers would do just that. Again, the added benefit of watching it on a Saturday morning in my pajamas was fantastic, and it was just it really put me in the right mood.
Good. That sounds like a fun little nostalgia, easygoing trip.
Yeah, buddy, you gotta watch that movie.
I know, we gotta talk about that someday. I'm sure I'll have things to say once I finally get around to it.
And I hope you do. But until then, I want to hear about the TV you watched this week.
So a couple things. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on any of this, but still working, Parks and Rec has continued to be my kind of easygoing show. So that's, I'm up to season 4, rewatching that. Watched the latest episode of Rick and Morty, little Pickle Rick action. So that was
Pickle
pretty good.
Rick!
The thing that I'm kind of realizing about the show is that show is very entertaining, and I'm always amused by it. I'm not sure how funny it actually is.
Oh, man. I think I disagree.
And this isn't so I thought about that in reflecting on watching that episode, because I love that episode. I really enjoy that episode, but I know I've also rewatched episodes of Rick and Morty in the past, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good stuff.
Hold on a second. You're not talking about how it makes you laugh. You're talking about its rewatchability.
Well, no, but I'm also talking, like, I'm saying that I started having these thoughts in the rewatching it, but, like, in the latest episode, too, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I really, laughed out loud at any point during that episode, but I was thoroughly entertained by it from start to finish.
You didn't laugh during the moment where he was talking to the Russians on the phone and he types into the computer, sending explosion, and then the computer on the other end reads receiving explosion?
I didn't, because, well, that part they had already spoiled in one of the trailers, I think.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't make it a bad gag.
I'm not saying the gags are bad. I'm just saying, I don't know. It's just something I was thinking about in terms of, how, it's a clever show. It's a smart show for, as they said, being so stupid. It's a smart show. And you're not going to see any other show where a pickle puts on the dead carcass of a rat and, kill a bunch of Russians in an office building. There's a lot of value in that, I think, to have on our TV. But I don't know. It's just something. And again, I don't that's not a knock against it. But I'm just. And again, it sounds like you disagree. Like you have a different experience than me when watching it. But it's just something I've been thinking about a little bit as I've started this 3rd season.
Yeah, and not to cut you off on your TV, but I watched the 2nd episode and the 3rd episode in this last week, and I'm just really loving the quality of these episodes this year. I was very entertained by the 2nd episode, and I love that they keep the continuity of having a crack in the driveway from the season finale of season 1.
Oh, yeah.
You remember when they teleport the house? I get a little bit of a chuckle out of that every time, but they're really diving into this whole divorce topic, and it's getting very real, and it's still very entertaining. I'm not going to pretend like I know anything about divorce, but I can sense a heavy conversation when I hear it, and they are diving into the heavy side of the conversation, and they're just having a lot of fun with it too.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing I like about the show is that it can lull you into these, not necessarily a false sense of security, but it can lull you into a sense of this show is just intended to be fun, and then it'll really wallop you with some heavy stuff every now and then. That first episode of this season where they did the whole Rick flashback thing, that was, even though it turned out to be quote unquote fake, well, to be determined on that exactly, but that was pretty real.
Oh yeah, I mean, again, we had another situation where Morty was digging up his dead body, his own dead body, and Rick's dead body from a previous universe, and on top of that, I mean, you're going through the depression of Jerry and his divorce and how he's really kind of not doing anything with his life. On top of that, you've got anger issues going through Summer and Morty, and there's just so much.
Yeah, it's a lot going on there.
Yep. The thing that surprises me the most is Morty is still 14, 15, still maybe a junior in high school, and the number of people they've had him kill already in this season alone, not counting the seasons previous, is kind of nuts.
Oh yeah,
And I'm talking episode 2 when he's got the arm.
Yes, for sure. There's a lot. There's a
Oh,
lot
he just
going
went
on
to
there with him.
town. Just went to town. And then I think my favorite part of that was when Jerry was walking around and he would hear the wind blow, and then the wind would blow loser.
I feel like that is going to come back at some point this season. Like
Oh, I
that
really
is
hope so.
that's going to be a thing. Like that's going to be something bigger than what we currently are experiencing, I think.
Well, the nice thing about Rick and Morty too is that it's episodic. There's no real overarching, season arc.
No, but in that same vein, I think they can pull from any previous episode and make it matter more in the future, like whenever they want it to. I think the same thing, like the whole first season where they, the episode where they, find the universe and kill their counterparts. And then, that comes back like you think like, oh, that's just, it's a cartoon show. Everything's just reset now and we're never going to talk about it again. But then 3 episodes later, or however many it is, like it becomes a big deal when Morty tells Summer about it.
Well, I don't know if it becomes a big deal. He certainly uses that to his advantage of talking to his sister. And, okay, hold on a second. Yeah, it's a big deal as far as the character building goes, but it's not necessarily, I'm thinking plot point.
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
So let's see. Other things I watched. Finally finished this season of Casual on Hulu. Not, I know I started a couple weeks ago saying that I liked the direction it was going, and just really sputters to the finish. Just not. Just the back half of the season was very, very weak in comparison to the second. It just feels like they're spinning their wheels and just don't have a lot of ideas for stories to tell. So, I might pick it back up again if it comes back next year. I'm not even sure it's been renewed, but, the first season of that show is spot on, and then from there it just kind of goes downhill.
Well, I mean, there's another season another series that has no problem making its humor dark. If we want to continue that line of the conversation, I mean, there's some dark tones in that show Casual, and, they use them for punchlines sometimes, and it works really well to their advantage.
Yeah, I think, again, in the earlier seasons for sure, but I think they don't utilize that sense of humor as well, especially in this past season, that it just, the jokes don't land as well as they did in the past.
That's too bad.
Also watched the series finale of At Midnight. Watched the very last episode just to kind of say goodbye. It was really, you didn't watch it by any chance, did you?
I did not.
It was really fun. I think they had somewhere upwards of 30 comedians on the show. And so if you're familiar with the show where, it's kind of back and forth between Chris and the guest, they would have Chris Hardwick do a question or a game setup, and whatever the setup would be, they'd have 3 comedians, each one would give an answer, and then he'd do another one, and then the comedians would change. So you each time you cut back to the podiums where the contestants were standing, it would be 3 different comedians every time, and so that was just a lot of fun to see all these people who had been regulars on the show, that were friends of the show, etc., just kind of come and give their stuff. And it was a really nice send-off, I think. We talked a little bit about it last time, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but just to show that it, kind of took for granted, I think, that it was on and was going to always be on, and I'm a little sad to see it go.
Yeah, I need to watch that final episode because I've expressed this before in the podcast. I really like watching the last episodes of things. I really enjoy seeing how it gets sent off by the creators and by the writers, specifically shows involving, comedy and really heartfelt, genuine things. Like you really tell that it was made, again, we're going back to that trope of, things made with love and things that, are made with that passion. So I'm going to have to go back and take a look at that.
Yeah, I believe it is free. It should be at least free for a while as long as Comedy Central keeps it on there. But on the Comedy Central app, you don't need a login or anything. But
Perfect.
You should just be able to. Or that one has the extended. Otherwise, if our listeners have Hulu, they'll probably have the last couple episodes available for a while with the shortened broadcast version. So
Perfect.
yeah. Then last but not least, I watched all of the new Wet Hot American Summer 10 Years Later Netflix series.
And how was it?
I was really excited about it. Did not live up to those expectations.
Oh, no.
It was probably, it's definitely third in the line of the Wet Hot American series. And I would say I don't want to say a pretty steep step down, but definitely a step down from the quality of like the first Netflix series. I really liked the first Netflix series. I thought it lived up pretty well to the reputation of the film. This, I think, is a pretty big step down from both. And it just feels like similar to Casual, they're just running out of ideas. And, they can't bring the cast together.
Well, I mean, on top of that, they're playing off a joke that's like 15 years, not a joke, but an idea that's about 15 years old. And there's only so much that we can expect, I think, from something like that. I mean, it's great that they came up with the first day of camp and now the 10-year reunion, but I really don't know if they should continue it necessarily because, well, first of all, it feels like something I just want to binge in one weekend. Like, I want to have nothing to do. I want to have plenty of beer in the fridge, plenty of snacks, and basically just watch everything. First day of camp, Wet Hot American Summer, then the 10-year reunion. Unless you would recommend not watching it in that order.
I don't know. I haven't watched it in chronological order yet. I haven't watched First Day of Camp followed by the movie to see how that works out.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know. I think, it's still, having said that, it's still enjoyable. Like, if you like those characters, it's still worth watching. I just don't think it's as good as the first two entries that they put out.
Yeah. Well, good to know.
Yeah. What about you, Brian, on the TV side? Watch anything fun this week?
Yeah. Well, we're going to be talking about it in a little bit, but Friends from College. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to dive into that too much. But then, when was it? It was, I think, Sunday morning, not Saturday morning. I saw that the Voltron Netflix series had released a new season.
Oh, yeah.
And it was only 7 episodes long, so, I had nothing else going on. So I kind of dove into that, and I watched the entire third series of Voltron, Legendary Defender, and it was fucking awesome. I get really pumped for that show, man. It's really well written, and it's one of those good adult cartoon shows, and they do a really good job with the animation. I think they do a fantastic job with the animation. It's one of my favorite animated shows that is out there right now until Young Justice comes back, and then we'll talk more about that. But, it's just the characters are all likable. The tension and the struggles that they put everybody through, or at least the emotional conflict and the personal conflict, is solid and easily resolved. And I think that teaches good things as well. We can go into that if you'd like, but we don't have to. And it's just, above all, and probably the most important thing, it's just fun. It's a good, fun show.
That's good. I know you and I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes of that a while ago, and I just had a hard time getting into it, but maybe I'll have to go back and give it another shot.
Yeah, go back and give it a shot. The first episode, or, whatever they call the first episode or two, definitely push through that. And then there's my least favorite part of any show like that, and that's them learning how to use everything and come together as a team. I really hate it when shows go through that, even though I know it's necessary, because I find it just boring and really kind of redundant, or not redundant, repetitive with what I've seen before. But once you get through that and you get through like the regular action, and then they're really trying to problem solve like combat and like, problems out in space, that's what I really enjoy. And they do a really good job of that. And I also learned, because it's a seven episode season, and they just released the second season not too long ago. I had to look it up. They say that they're going for a 75 episode series total.
Wow.
Yep. And B, they want to release episodes more frequently, but that does mean they will be releasing fewer episodes. So the previous 2 seasons were about 13 episodes long, I want to say, maybe a little bit longer. This last one was 7, which is not a drastic cutoff, but still a bit of a cutoff. But if that means that they're going to release the 4th season in, early October, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it seemed like they're going more for, arc-based releases as opposed to just throwing out a bunch of episodes at one time.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And the third episode, or this third season, introduces new characters. It introduces new concepts. The lions get cooler. It's just again, it's a lot of fun. If you're looking to go down that like kind of nostalgic, like I'm okay watching cartoons, time thing, then do it and use Voltron.
All right.
Yeah, and that's it. That's all my TV.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah. Anything you want to talk about from YouTube?
Just a few things to point people in some fun directions here. There is a wrestler called Bobby Roode, Roode. I could be botching that last name. He has probably one of the greatest entrance songs ever. My old roommate used to blast it while he took showers. And it is just, if you need a pump-up song to just be like, I am going to go take on the world, look up this guy's entrance song and download it onto your mobile device or whatever you use to listen to, because this song will get you jacked and just have you feel ready to take on the world.
Oh, really?
Yes. and the entrances are pretty fun too. Like if you watch the actual entrance videos, he usually gets pretty creative with how he comes in, so the song really plays out. I believe in one instance he has even a choir back him, which is pretty awesome. So that's pretty fun. I also saw Kevin Conroy, who was, and still is on occasion, the animated voice of Batman. And he did a thing with Nerdist where they had him read the speech at the end of The Dark Knight, where Gordon is talking with Batman, and Batman is telling Gordon that he's got to take the fall for all the things Harvey Dent did.
Yeah, man.
And it's pretty great. You can tell Kevin Conroy's a little uncomfortable because he says kind of at the end that he's doing it cold, like they didn't really prep him and he didn't try it beforehand. But if you like the original Batman animated series, Justice League, where Kevin Conroy voices Batman, he does a really fun job with this, and chills, just got chills. And then last but not least, I know we keep talking about DuckTales, but man, there's just so much fun DuckTales stuff out right now. And one of the great things I watched today was a 22-minute video, which was David Tennant, who voices Scrooge, and Ben Schwartz and Danny Pudi, who voiced two of the nephews, on some type of ABC News show where they were interviewing them about the new show coming back. And I have no idea why it was 22 minutes long. Usually those pieces are like 5 minutes. But these guys, if you just want to watch like three guys try and make an interview as fun as possible for 22 minutes, and they're all very talented and humorous people, check that video out. Reminder, as always, Eyes on Brains Off YouTube page has full playlists for all the online video clips that we watched in the past week. But go check that out. It is well worth your time to just watch these three funny actors play in this space with this reporter.
I mean, Ben Schwartz alone is really funny. Danny Pudi is great, and David Tennant's just really engaging. He does a really good job of talking to people, and I cannot wait to watch more DuckTales stuff. Well, without actually watching DuckTales. I worry that I'm not actually going to watch it, and I need to change that mindset. I need to just get out there, because I continue to watch the DuckTales theme as kind of a pick-me-up, just because it's a great pick-me-up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going to be a real fun time.
Yeah. Oh, that's everything. That's what we need. That's just what this world needs right now.
I think so.
Yeah.
What about on your end?
Nothing, not a whole lot I want to talk about. Cannot get enough of My Brother, and Me. I don't know why, but I was kind of skeptical when you were first talking to me about My Brother, and Me a while ago. And since I watched their show, it's just great. I love watching those clips.
Are you just watching the CISO clips, or are you watching like some of their animated bits from their podcast?
Starting to get into the animated clips.
They have some very, very talented fans.
They
put
they
that
really
stuff
do.
together. Yeah,
they really do. Other than that, it was the 10th anniversary of Hot Rod recently. The movie Hot Rod with Andy Samberg. So I watched 2 clips from that. I need to watch the whole movie, but the I Like to Party introduction clips I find is very good humor. I think it's just good writing, and it's just enjoyable.
I read a really nice oral history about that movie with The Lonely Island. I can't remember. It might have been Screen Rant. Might have been somewhere else. But look it up. Just look up Hot Rod oral history. I'm sure you'll find it. It was just in the last week or two.
I think I clicked on the same link from Screen Rant. It is Screen Rant.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it was but really nicely done. Some fun insights into a movie you might not have seen, but is actually very funny in a dumb way.
And then the other thing worth talking about. Okay, 2 things worth talking about. The first, I watched the clip from Deadpool, Where's Francis? Where he's, coming up with, my name should be Deadpool. And then he's running around and figuring out his costume and trying to figure out where the fuck Francis is. And someone pointed out that nobody knows where Francis is because nobody knows him by that name. And if he had asked, where's Ajax, he would have gotten different responses.
No.
which makes the movie just a lot better. I'm starting to get really excited for Deadpool 2, especially with all the stuff they've been releasing for it. Specifically, their photo for Domino, and more specifically and more recently, the photo that that Josh Brolin released of him in the Cable costume. And did you see that?
I did. It looks good.
Looks pretty solid.
Yeah,
they're doing a good job with that.
I think they're headed in the right direction in that respect. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cable being one of the most. I don't know his backstory, and I need to do a deep dive into figuring out who Cable is.
Oh boy. Have fun with that one. It is a twisted tale, my friend.
Yeah, it's pretty. Time travel is something else.
Yeah, time travel.
And they really throw that one for a loop. Not to mention his parents. And I don't want to get too in the weeds with X-Men because we could very easily get into the weeds. I think that's its own separate podcast that might have fewer listeners compared to this one if we only talked about Marvel comic history and continuity.
And I'm sure there are plenty of podcasts already covering that much better than we ever could. So
yeah, pretty much. Then, let's talk about comics so just a little bit because there's a music video released recently called Guardians Inferno, which I know you got to take a look at because I saw your playlist before we started recording. What did you think of the Guardians Inferno?
I thought it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Nice little bonus to tag onto that movie. And what I was most surprised by is I did not realize that some of the actors from the film were going to be in the music video. I knew they were making the music video and David Hasselhoff was going to be in it, but they had I didn't realize that the cast members from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 were going to be also included. And everyone just looks like they're having a good time.
And they got everybody. That's not just like, oh, only so-and-so made an appearance. They got the cast. Ooh, except I didn't see Bradley Cooper. Was he in there?
I don't think Bradley Cooper or Vin Diesel were included, no.
Okay. That's
I don't think Bradley Cooper, I don't even think he does press when that movie comes out. I know Vin Diesel does a little bit of press when those movies come out, but I don't think Bradley Cooper is I don't think you can find a picture of, maybe when the first one came out, but I don't think when the second one was out, I never saw Bradley Cooper, giving interviews or with the cast at premieres or anything.
Really? Oh, that's weird. Because he does such a great job with the character.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was good too. I think, I don't know. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as you, because I feel like, I don't know. I think there was a problem with that movie. It's certainly, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is certainly not as good as the first one. The first one knocked it out of the park with its humor and its music, and I think the second one was a little too full of itself.
Oh, and see, I thought the first one was too full of itself from the get-go. And I think the second one... So by the second one, I was okay with it. I think it was more or less on par with the first one, in my mind. I think you're right that the first one's probably a little bit better, but I think in terms of being full of itself, I thought that from the get-go in the first movie that the movie was a little full of itself.
God, I thought I nailed it on the head. Agree to disagree.
Suppose so.
Okay. Fantastic.
Well, should we get to the star attraction today as we wind down?
Friends from College.
Friends from College. Netflix original series.
Friends from College.
We're friends from college.
We are friends from college. I was going to say, we went and we saw Iron Man 2 in theaters together with a bunch of other of our friends. You remember that?
I don't remember. I remember seeing some movies like Fast Five. I will always remember seeing Fast Five. And Sucker Punch. But I don't remember.
I didn't go to Sucker Punch with you all.
You were missing much. You were blessed on that day. No, I don't remember seeing Iron Man 2. I don't doubt that we did. I just don't remember specifically.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we did see a lot. We went to a lot of movies in college.
We did.
Yep.
But Friends, I feel like we're dancing around Friends from College, which is a story of 6 friends. Now, stop me if you've heard this one before. 6 friends in New York who all know each other.
Stop. How do they know each other?
They're from college.
Oh, now, wow. Okay. All right, continue. Sorry.
That makes it a little bit different than another show that has friends in the title called Friends. But
and what's that one about?
That one's about 6 friends who live in New York who all know each other, but I don't know. They've been in purgatory the whole time? Am I getting that right?
Yeah. No, that's actually... Yeah, because New York's an island, and they were on the island.
And they were on the island, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right.
That's it.
But again, Friends from College is... I don't know where to end, how to approach this show.
There's really good... there's not a real great entrance into the conversation, I feel like.
We have... The basic setup is you have Keegan-Michael Key as married to Kobe Smulders, and they are part of this very tight-knit friends group from college who all live in New York except them, but they the show starts with them moving to New York. And you also find out that Keegan-Michael Key has been having a 20-year affair with one of the other characters in the friend group.
Still, since college.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think it's about 20 years.
Right. And from there, you kind of see how, I'm not really sure what point this show is trying to make. I mean, it's showing kind of at several instances, we have characters outside the friend group pointing out how toxic their relationship is and how sad it is that they're all living in the past. And but I don't really know that that's the point of the show either, because it seems a little broad. And they kind of hit you over the head with it enough times that you kind of need to make up your own mind. So I don't know, like, what were your this show? I watched the first episode. I know we were talking about this as we were watching it, kind of, and I watched that first episode and I was just baffled by it. I wasn't sure what I was watching because it's not laugh out loud.
And I think another important thing is it's not cringy funny. It's just kind of cringy.
Yeah.
And that's what made me feel the most uncomfortable. And there are a few things I want to talk about, but I mean, talking about the humor itself, I thought that there was okay continuity for stories throughout each episode, but at the same time, I felt like every scene was more or less its own skit that was put together, by like comedians. It seemed like a little improv-y to me. And I don't know if I was weird. Exactly a fan of that. I think it was trying to be a little too improvised scripted, if that's a way of putting it. That maybe they were leaning on Keegan-Michael Key a little too much to be funny. But you're nailing it on the head there. It's just, it wasn't the funniest. And that's definitely what they marketed it as. Another thing I want to talk about, though, is the friend group. I mean, there's a lot of, like you said, people from the outside of their friend group talking to them about how toxic their friend group is. But did you really feel like it was that toxic? I mean, let's put aside the infidelity of marriages and just focus on them hanging out as a group. Did you feel like it was so bad?
I think so. Yeah. I think what I felt. And see, the thing is I liked all the peripheral characters. Like, those are some of my favorite characters, like Billy Eichner and the woman who's having the affair with Keegan-Michael Key. Like, her husband, I really liked him in the show. Because
I really liked him too.
The thing is that this show has a bit of a Seinfeld or a Always Sunny syndrome where none of the characters are likable. But you can't, like, those shows... I don't think that, like, with Seinfeld and Always Sunny, you have casts of very unlikable, like, not good people characters, like,
right.
Selfish. But those shows are well written enough that you can get past that. This show is not well written enough to get past that. Like, you are just watching very unlikable people do kind of, not exactly despicable, but just like very, like, I feel like they're trying to be like, well, life's tough and people make mistakes. And it's like, yeah, but you don't need to be an ass the whole time you do it either,
Yeah.
Like.
Well, okay, if I want to, with the two shows that you mentioned, It's Always Sunny and Seinfeld, the two things about those shows that have in common is that they're absolutely absurd. And they play into that absurdity. It's Always Sunny a little bit more, or a lot more than Seinfeld, but, to a degree, that Seinfeld doesn't necessarily happen in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this, Friends from College, isn't absurd. It's very much set in the real world, and it's very much trying to suspend that disbelief, that crazy things are happening when they're not. Like, it's a little too real, but not on the side that makes you think, I don't know, they're just, I'm trying not to jump around here on what I'm thinking of. my main point, though, is the world that they set up is not absurd. They're all just bad people.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's far too grounded to get past the dislike you have for these characters.
Right. Now, when it comes to the relationships that they all have, yes, they're bad people, but I don't necessarily think that their relationship is toxic. I think that there's some good friendships within that group. I think Keegan-Michael Key confides in, is it Fred or Ben Savage? It's Fred Savage, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. He confides in him, and, there's a strong friendship there. Colby Smulders has Nat Faxon, and everyone else just has each other. I forget who the other characters are. But, there's confiding there. There is support amongst each other, and I don't see it as incredibly toxic. I don't think they make good decisions, but I think toxic might be a little too far.
Where I disagree with you is that there's a certain toxicity in just staying with people to, stay with people. I think that I think that's where it's coming from. They're not doing anything to justify the amount of time they continue to spend with each other. I think you kind of get that from the one character's husband, where, he's at one point, I think early in the series, he talks something about his college days. And I think there's something to be said about, we can meet up every now and then and catch up. But the fact that they are still clinging on to each other without any, what is the reason? And I think that's where you start to see it is Keegan-Michael Key is he's having an affair with Fred Savage's character. He's, getting that ego stroke. And so I don't know. That's where I think some of the toxicity comes in.
Okay. Well, again, going back to they're not making good decisions. I watched the first episode with April, and one of the first things I talked to her about is not liking is that the character starts with, the two main characters start with an affair, and I instantly dislike them for that. And the fact that they continued it was, I don't know, it was just a perpetual bad decision that made for some top-notch cringiness and awkwardness throughout the show. And, if they really wanted to be together so badly, then, make that happen in your life. Stop ruining the relationship that you have with the other person. If you want out of a relationship, get out of the relationship.
What really annoyed me about that affair was the fact that it was such a focal point for the series that had no consequences at the end of the season. Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. I kept thinking that last episode, I honest to God thought with that last episode where you have the character Keegan-Michael Key is having an affair with, it's her 40th birthday, and her husband is throwing her this big birthday party, and he's got all these surprises, and one's a archer and one is a fireworks show, and there's all these surprises he has planned, and I honest to God thought he was gonna blow, I thought he was gonna reveal that he knew about the affair. That's where I thought that episode was leading, and I thought with the whole mentalist thing, I thought the mentalist was gonna come in and
oh, he's gonna discover the affair.
The affair, yeah, but
pay me $100 and I won't tell him.
So I just, that's what frustrated me about the show, is that there was no throughput in a lot of these storylines, that just random things kept happening for reasons that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
So
that's the whole show. A lot of things were happening that didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Let me as we kind of wrap up here, let me ask you 3 things. What did you like? What did you not like? Should people watch it?
The only thing that I truly enjoyed in the show was the episode where Keegan-Michael Key and Fred Savage pull an all-nighter and try to figure out what the next big young adult novel is.
Yes. That was a pretty fun episode.
Yeah. That was very fun, and I think what I really liked about it was Billy Eichner came out and he's like, I'm trying to sleep, I've got surgery in the morning. What's wrong with you people? And then a whole pizza falls from the ceiling.
That was pretty good.
That struck me the right way. What I didn't like was everything else.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's just, God, I didn't like it when Seth Rogen made his guest appearance. I hated that episode. I hated when
it felt so out of place, and I don't know why. Like it shouldn't, but it just felt so out of place for some reason.
Well, it's like your asshole friend who's dropping names to drop names when you really don't need to know who he hung out with.
Yeah.
That weekend. Oh, hey, how's it going? I was hanging out with Colin Hanks this last weekend. Nobody gives a shit.
Wait, Brian, have you known Colin Hanks this whole time?
No, I haven't known Colin Hanks this whole time. Do you see me rocking a fedora with, pierced ears these days?
No. What is that from?
That's from, I was really hoping it would connect better with you, but that was from Happy Endings.
Yeah.
It is Happy Endings.
I got there eventually. Yeah, okay.
Guys, I'm hanging out with C. Hanks now.
I prefer hanging out with Eddie Jimmy Olmos.
Oh, yeah? Of course. Why didn't I think of that? That's a really obscure moment for our listeners.
Well.
What are you gonna do?
Look it up.
that seemed like that was the point of having Seth Rogen on the show.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, we're gonna have our famous, well-known friend on the show as a name drop. Yeah. And it just didn't work. As far as whether or not people should watch it, I'm gonna say no. Don't.
Okay.
Especially if you have an aversion to marital affairs, then you really don't watch it. And that's about that.
If you don't trust your spouse, maybe
if you don't trust your spouse, definitely don't watch it.
I will say things I liked were outside of what I've already said. I did really like Fred Savage's performance. I also really liked Kobe Smulders. I didn't realize how much I had missed. I thought she was, to a certain extent, channeling the tougher sides of Robin Scherbatsky, and I didn't realize how much I had missed that, because we've seen her in some of the Marvel movies, but Maria Hill is pretty, I don't want to say soft-spoken, but she's a pretty reserved character.
That's a better way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just nice to see, like, Colby Smulders, like, kind of, because she does tough very well. And
absolutely.
I liked her in this show. Things I did not like, outside of what I've already said, I thought Nate Faxon was not used. I don't think he was used as well as he could have been. I really like him, and I like the moments that he had, but just his character wasn't very well developed or utilized in a great way in this show. And
no,
I think
absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think just, bottom line, I eventually got into a groove with watching it, but the first couple episodes were tough for me to get into. And I would, yeah.
You definitely had to, I definitely had to force feed myself on this one. I really had to push through. And then I started watching it, this weekend during the morning, and then there was a moment, and I think it's when, it was the episode where Colby and Keegan are trying to have a kid, and they're supposed to take a shot, at this specific time.
Yeah.
And they're in this bathroom, and Keegan drops the vial of the shot that he's supposed to line up, and it breaks. And at that moment, it was just too much of that cringe humor and too much of like a real moment for me to handle for some reason. Like, I really didn't enjoy that happened, so I turned it off, and then I saw Voltron Season 3 was on, and I powered through that no problem.
That whole episode is kind of rough. Just tough to watch in a couple different ways. But yeah, I would say I'll go a little bit more in the middle, and I would say maybe watch this show. I could see how it would appeal to certain tastes, and there's something about it that got to me, and there's definitely a lot to talk about with that show, and it's not unwatchable. I don't think it is as bad as all the reviews said it was. I will say that.
I haven't read any reviews, so I can't say whether or not it's that bad, but it's certainly shouldn't get nominated for anything.
No,
I'll put it that way.
I think we can agree on that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I'm excited for the Defenders.
Yeah, I'm excited for Defenders too. So maybe just, have your own drama with your own college friends as opposed to living vicariously through friends from college.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, that was another thing about it. It's friends from college, and I guess they're trying to make the appeal to everybody, but it's friends from college at Harvard. How many people are going to connect to that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was a little surprised by that, I guess, that they went automatically to Ivy League, because I don't know, you would just it what's the right way to say it? It's like there's no surprise there. Like, I feel like a bunch of elitists still like to hang out with each other and be elitists. Like, I don't like what. Why?
Like, the fact that they went to Harvard changes absolutely nothing. They could have easily made that like a state school, like a large state school, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, and I maybe would have liked the show more then if I had known that these characters came from more humble roots.
I don't know if I would have liked it more. I've just, I think there would have been a potential to like it more.
I think it goes to this, like, they're already coming from a privileged origin, so, like, why should I, give a shit that they can't figure out life when they're 40? Whereas if, they have those more humble beginnings that I could relate to, I could be like, yeah, I could see how you're still trying to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we got then. That's friends from college.
Yeah.
Oh, you got more? You got more, Brian?
No, I don't. I mean, I really don't. I don't feel like I need to live vicariously through this show. On top of that, I don't think it applies to us and our friends from college. So
no. We're also not 40 though, so maybe eventually we'll get there.
That is correct. But at the same time, I feel like when we hang out, our habits have evolved enough with our age,
Have they though, Brian?
I mean, there's certainly less drinking that happens.
Oh, that's okay. I wasn't sure exactly where you're going with that. That's an interesting choice. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but we'll save that for another time, I think.
Well, think of it this way too. I mean, yeah, we talked a lot about like movies and TV and books and stuff like that when we were in college, but we have now evolved that into a podcast. And this is something that we're creating and putting out into the world. We're being vulnerable with this thing out of something that was once familiar to us to a point where we thought we could extend it further.
Okay. I'll agree with you on that.
And then we stopped drinking as much. We're getting older.
Yes, true enough. All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up then. Thank you again, as always, for joining us here. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll be coming back next week. And Brian, you want to tell people what we're going to be watching?
We are going to be watching Comrade Detective, something that I hadn't even heard of until about 15 minutes before we started recording this episode. It stars Channing Tatum and Joseph Gordon-Levitt with Nick Offerman. And basically they created, what is it, Serbian? It's Serbian. They created a Serbian detective show based in the 80s. Which is ridiculous in its own sense, it looks like. And then on top of that, Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Channing Tatum do the own English dub over the already ridiculous show. So there's only 7 episodes of this on Netflix, and we're gonna watch them all. We got some ambitious plans, but we're gonna have to space this out.
Couple things. One, it's an Amazon show, so Amazon Prime members.
Netflix. Okay.
And,
yep.
And 2, only 6 episodes. So.
Well, yeah. What kind of EOBO would it be if I didn't screw something up?
I just don't want our listeners to get mad at us for, they're looking on Netflix for this thing and it's not there because it's on Amazon Prime Video. So
no, that makes sense.
That's where you can find it.
Yep.
But
I'm usually so much sharper outside of this podcast when it comes to naming things.
It's probably just the late hour that we recorded at, Brian. Your mind isn't as focused.
Hey, but something we get to tell everybody now. Happy Friday.
Yes. Have a happy Friday. We hope we have guided your viewing choices for the weekend in some capacity. Because we're also caught up now. We're now releasing episodes the same week we record them, he said, hoping that turns out to be true.
Crossing his fingers.
Yeah.
Hoping that that we're taking care of it.
Yeah.
No pressure.
No pressure. But, I think that's all we got. As always, keep sharing this with people. Leave us some reviews. We only need 5 reviews or so for reviews to start showing up on iTunes. So if 5 of you listen and have iTunes and just want to throw up some quick reviews they don't even need to be 5-star reviews. They can be however many stars you want. You can say 1 star. These guys talk about nonsense the whole time. But at least it'll start showing up then. So
be honest. We know you're out there.
Take 5 minutes. You're already taking 90 to listen to this, so take another 5 and just throw up a quick review for us.
I'm not going to do a full or complete exposing shout out because I like saving that for the little intros we do. But, we get plenty of feedback from people who listen to the podcast. So I'm going to call them out a little bit. Get on that old iTunes. Let us know what you think. Let the world know what you think.
Yeah. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. That helps too. So whatever you can do to help spread the word and get us in front of more people is always appreciated. But I think that's all I got this week. Brian, anything else?
No. I hope everybody has a good week. When it comes to non-listening things, though, I did get to rent A Wrinkle in Time from the library.
Okay.
So I'm very excited to read it. So as I continue in that, I will report in on how A Wrinkle in Time holds up since middle school.
Good to know. I'm excited to hear. I read it, like I said, a year or 2 ago. And I don't really remember what happened in that book. So you can bring me back up to speed.
Perfect.
Cool.
Well, all right then.
Thanks as always. I've been Chris.
I've been Brian.
And we will see you next week.